how did you initially get involved with the topic of Nibiru? Because when I go around and I talk to people about it, a lot of people just kind of raise an eyebrow and don't know really what I'm talking about at all.
Well, I've known about the existence of the second solar system attached to ours, binary solar system. We actually have two groups of planets with two suns. And I wrote a paper on that in 1978-79 for a junior high school term paper. And my professor, or an adjoining professor at the school that I was going to a college preparatory private school, and they turned that into a National Science Academy paper. And a few months later, the NSA and the FBI were having coffee with my parents at my house when I came home from school. And they basically offered me a job and made me sign a 30-year non-disclosure agreement prior to even telling me what this job was about. And they paid attention to the fact that my paper discussed the basics that we had to have two suns in order for the planetary count that we had within our solar system to actually be accurate, because according to atomic mass, etc., there was no possible way that our dwarf yellow soul could hold all these planets, especially with the gas giants and everything, way out away from the center of the solar system. So they were really interested in me, and they basically had me sign this agreement, and then this and that and the other thing transpired between the information, and I've known about it basically for about 38 years. We'll just leave it at that.
I see. So, so you discovering this, what made you, discovering the fact that there are other planets and a binary system does not necessarily give it the label of Nibiru. What caused you to connect the two of those together?
Well, I got that information from an off-world source that happened some years later, because I had been approached by more than one faction. And I basically ended up meeting face-to-face with a Pleiadian at one point in time. That's another story altogether that I don't really want to go into too much. But it's basically an abduction story. And when they found out that they could not control me, they were really surprised by this event, so they went and looked me up, and then when they looked me up and found out who I was or who I will be according to them, which is it's kind of a time loop twisty thing with the Pleiadians, because apparently they're supposedly from the future, etc. So that's another story as well. They came to me and gave me a handful of information that had matched, and not only that, I was told from the government, basically, and come to find out through sharing of the information, that I was questioning why only a 30-year non-disclosure agreement, and they said, well, after that, it won't matter. And then, of course, we got the information from...
That's terrifying.
Zachariah Sitchin and all these other things that pointed to it. Way back in the 70s, they had the Planet X discussion about the aberration in the orbit beyond Uranus and all of that, and they were wondering about the Planet X system. Well, through the information that I discovered, I knew that they were going to be here, and most everyone back, 25 years ago also knew about that, who was studying into it, that Planet X would arrive within a certain period of time. And along about 2009, early 2010, I'm out in my yard, and I'm looking up, and all of a sudden I see, holy cow, I see a full-on side-lit 2/3 crescent flare of a very massive, massive planet. And I immediately knew, oh my God, they're here. And then the information that I was given, and another series of information that I looked up on the internet come 2009, 2010 as well, I found some information that fell into place that matched that which I had already learned. And I went, holy cow. Now, that information you can't even drum up on the internet today, because a good portion of the information that they have had up there at one point in time has been removed, because they're doing their darndest to shut this down as much as they can. Now, they let a lot of these sites that are running on and rambling about disinformation, they leave those guys alone. But the people who are accurate, they get crushed. They get shut down, they get blocked. 2 months after I started doing openly talking about what I knew, after my non-disclosure agreement had ended, because believe me, the threats were so strong, I never said a word about this prior to anyone. I followed the rules, period.